Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and welcome to our session on AI and human connection, redefining business transformation in 2025. I absolutely love this topic. My name's Tim Morton. I'm one of the founders of Prompta AI, and artificial intelligence is certainly transforming industries. It's on top of conversation. It's changing the business landscape. And of course, so much of AI was in the news again this week with some incredible developments. And we know there's more twists and turns to come. And, I believe one of the biggest challenges of uh, adopting and integrating AI with human connection is that need to be inclusive, to be innovative, be collaborative, and that's going to enable successful organizations. And with Prompta AI over the last 5 years, we've been seeing how AI can empower leaders, can reshape the workforce culture, and drive sustainable business transformation. But that's not happening everywhere. And just show me a company that's growing and needing to innovate that's not transforming in some way this year. So today, we're excited to explore how AI can be leveraged to empower leaders, to enhance human potential, to strengthen workplace cultures and collaboration, to drive smarter and sustainable business transformation. I'm thrilled to be with you today to guide this important conversation as we explore the balance of AI and human interaction and discuss how organizations can adopt AI responsibly, foster growth, enhance human skills, and build stronger connections. And I'm so honored and pleased to introduce our guest speaker today, Brian Gorman, a tremendous thought leader, an innovative transformer, and host of the Qonversations Podcast that starts with a Q. And I was previously on one of Brian's podcasts and thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm thrilled to have Brian here with us today to share his insights and thought leadership. So welcome, Brian. Thanks for joining us, and please do introduce yourself to the audience.
It's great to be here, Tim. Great to be back with you in the public light, if you will. As you said, I am Brian Gorman. I spent the first several decades of my career in the realm of organizational change management and organizational transformation. In 2016, I became a certified coach and formed my business, which is transforminglives.coach. I work with both personal and professional transformation, and was talking to someone a few months ago who said, "What is your niche?" And I said, "I'm a leadership coach." And she said, "Well, so are 100 million others." So I used AI. I went to ChatGPT. I said, "These are the kinds of people and the kinds of challenges I most like to work with. How would you label my niche?" Tim, I'm a maverick coach.
You know what? I can see that, and I would concur, because anytime we talk or exchange ideas, I'm always left with things to think about, things to reflect on, and different perspectives. And I think for me that's why I'm so excited today as well, because you don't just come at things from a cookie cutter or one size approach, or oh, hey, just follow these three simple steps, and it's gonna be a breeze. One of the things that I'm even seeing, and when working with my team, one of the things that they often get out of AI is we ensure that you're we are not ensuring anything. We are enabling smoother transformations. We're doing things, but we're not ensuring. There's a lot of there's so many variables, and it's that's so important for this discussion.
If I can kick us off on that. I have been saying for probably 5 years now, particularly since COVID served as a catalyst, we are, I believe, and I'm hearing others say this now, at the start of the equivalent of the Industrial Revolution. We can't ensure anything. We can't ensure anything. The nature of work is changing. AI is changing the nature of work. There are other forces coming at us that are changing the nature of work. The nature of the workforce, the workplace has changed. Starting with, again, COVID forcing people into a different work environment. We're trying to put the genie back in the bottle in some cases. The genie ain't going to go. And then the workforce themselves have changed. How they see work, how they feel about work, what motivates them to work. We don't know where this world of work is going.
No.
We can make some decisions about how it gets there.
Yeah, and I think with that, it's so important not to leave it to chance. We were talking about without some of the risks of not planning or thinking or having leadership leadership plans or strategies in place. And in some organizations we're seeing bigger risks with people bringing their own AI to work and doing things off the side of their desk or from home, putting things at risk. So for those joining us today, thank you for joining us, and please do save your questions, share them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll allow time at the end for questions. We are also recording this session, and we'll plan to share it following today's discussion. So, just thinking about this whole AI human skills connection, what do you see as the ways that AI can amplify the human potential rather than replace it? Because one of the things that I'm seeing is I'm seeing two big fears within organizations. One, that AI is going to take my job, and two is around my data. But how can we amplify the human potential with AI?
I've done a couple of podcasts on AI. One was with a gentleman named Manoj Agarwal, who has been playing in the world of AI, if you will, for a lot of years. And one of the things that he said really resonated with me. And then I want to build on that. He said, forget intelligence. AI has us beat. What we have, though, is unique in our emotional intelligence ability to apply AI. And I've been thinking about that a lot in preparation for this conversation today, Tim, and I want to take that further. Neuroscience now tells us that we receive approximately 11 million bits of data a second. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, our intuition. 11 million bits of data. We can intentionally, consciously process about 134 of those. So we have all this other intelligence to call upon as we think about AI. The other piece of neuroscience I want to bring in here is we have at least 3 brains. Neuroscientists may dispute the label brain, But in our hearts are the same motor neurons, the same sensory neurons, the same electrochemical activities in our heads. In our guts, we have about as many neurons as a cat's brain. And each of these has different wisdom. Our heart is the seat of our values, our passion, our compassion. AI doesn't have passion or compassion or values. That's up to the user. In our guts, that's the core of who we are. That is courage. That is self-protection. So we may not have the wisdom of AI in our heads, but we have wisdom beyond AI.
Yeah, indeed. And what comes to my mind is, as we've been working with some companies and some leaders, one of the things we're initially hearing from them is they used to one company in particular, they said, oh, we went from being frustrated because they brought in one of the big four, and the partner from the big four was the only voice that top leadership trusted. And now the only voice that top leadership trusts is AI. And it's almost in AI we trust. And one of the things that we know as well is there's so much institutional knowledge that leaders within organizations have that's so important into understanding. So of course, AI can give great insights and great data and really inform. But if we're not leveraging some of that institutional knowledge, if we don't have that, here's what I intuitively know, here's what we know about our customer, our way of working, our culture, and using AI as a data point as opposed to having it be the gospel. And I think with that as well, it's that importance of trusting your intuition, trusting your gut, trusting what your eyes are seeing, using these great data points, but actually being able to trust and understand holistically what is going on with better data.
And oh, by the way, AI can get it wrong. I was just doing some research on a former client to write up a case study. They moved their headquarters 5 years ago, but not according to AI.
Yeah, indeed. And I've seen several instances over the last week when what I've asked hasn't been correct. And I think it's really important to understand what you are getting, and being able to challenge and being able to actually validate and understand how a model is how a model is actually learning, and where are they getting their information from. And I think that's an essential component here as well. And so when you think about some of the human virtues that we do bring to the office, so people come with a good leader, with empathy. You want a team to be creative, you want it to be collaborative, you want it to be trust-based. How do we ensure that continues within the AI-driven workplace?
Well, I hope we don't get to an AI-driven workplace personally. I would prefer an AI-supported or an AI-enabled workplace.
Yeah.
That is human-driven.
Yes.
Even where we're using AI to, for example, run a manufacturing facility, there are going to be people there, and they have to be able to see what AI can't, to feel what AI can't, and to make the decisions that AI won't.
Yeah, and to be able to do that 20% of things that happen that are exceptional, not routine, and to be able to keep steering the way forward successfully. I think that's tremendously important. And you touched briefly on emotional intelligence, and I'd like to go a little deeper if we can and think about emotional intelligence, also people using their IQ as well, and um, how leaders how do you think leaders can be better leaders, or um, rethink how they lead their people during this time of AI enabled change?
So you've hit my sweet spot. I actually, everyone in that, we just came out today with episode 113 of Conversations. Every one of them is how to be a better leader in today's disrupted world. And I publish Conversations now comes out on alternate Thursdays. The other Thursdays, I'm publishing a newsletter on LinkedIn called Enlightened Leadership. There, and oh, by the way, I'm writing a book on cross-generational leadership now. Leadership of the past ain't working for those who are trying to make it work. You can command and control so much. You can treat people like they're the cogs in the machine for so long. But again, people have experienced a different way of working. They have come to recognize in many cases that the work they're doing is meaningless and valueless. And so we need leaders who know how to build and sustain trust. We need leaders who know how to do everything they can to prepare their people for success and then get out of the way and keep the road clear ahead of them. We need leaders who recognize that those who most know what their customer needs are on the front lines, not in research labs somewhere or think tanks disconnected from the marketplace. We need a different kind of leadership. That's the short answer.
it's it's so true, because what we're seeing now is one of the things that we've seen is we used to see that iceberg with the, hey, 10% of the culture is known, and the other 90% will below the surface. Well, we're seeing and we're understanding a lot more about that 90% of the culture. What we're seeing too is that employees across the board have access to more information, more data, uh, better insights, as do leaders. And leaders need to find ways to start to uh, manage differently. And I, there's a couple things that I think about is uh, you know hundreds of years ago, when uh, you know those that could read had the power, and how things changed when the majority of people had the ability to read and access information. Well, it's now another period like that. It's a real shift, and and starting to rethink with new tools. Like one of the things that we saw with one organization, they were so pleased. They thought, okay, our customers are so happy. Look at all the the 5-star reviews we have. Meanwhile, it's their sales force who are telling people, please give me a 5-star review, because if you don't, it's going to impact my my job. I may not have a job if we do. And you just thinking about leaders who believe that their customers are happy and satisfied, and that's just one element, of course. So I think you're spot on. It's changing um, that paradigm, and of course, COVID happened. We can't pretend it didn't. That was a huge cultural shift, and I think if you, as you said in the past, we can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Tim, you and I spent a lot of years working in the change management realm, trying to change culture. Where does culture live? Not a trick question. Culture lives inside the people of your organization. It's in their muscle memory. It's in their neural networks.
Yeah.
Give a 5-star rating so I don't lose my job. That's a cultural element. That's a behavior. That's a reflection of values. None of that is AI generated.
No.
I want to go back to something, and I don't even know where to go with this conversation because we're touching on so many important things, but I remember carrying boxes of key punched cards to the computer center. And the conversations about how we're only going to be, in 20 years, we're only going to be working 1 day a week. Didn't happen. I'm hearing similar conversations about AI in the workplace. It's going to do away with the need for human workers, or certainly the number of hours that human workers are putting in. Ain't going to happen either. That's my prediction.
And
Wanted to get that.
Oh, go ahead, please.
I want to come back to that culture thing, culture conversation, because it really is important, and it's defined by leaders, not just leaders in the C-suite. It's defined by frontline leaders. Did a lot of work over the past year, in 2024, with Delta Airlines, a company that is driven from the CEO on down around living their values. And they did not lay anyone off during COVID. They offered very generous early retirement. They said, if you take an unpaid leave of absence, we will not contest unemployment. We will continue to pay your health care benefits. But despite that, they lost 40% of their workforce. When you bring new people in, they don't fit in your culture, no matter how hard. And I really, really encourage my clients I work with to spend time testing fit. I actually posted something on LinkedIn within the last week or two about that. But they began a living values in action program for frontline leaders. How, as a frontline leader, do I show servant leadership? How, as a frontline leadership, do I demonstrate integrity? And for me, just as a sidebar, this is where coaching really comes into play, because we can talk about integrity in the classroom all day long. And when I go back out, I'm still going to say, give me that 5-star rating. Coaching is about changing behavior. It's about changing that culture. The AI got it wrong on headquarters client that I was researching. Actually, was researching where in the Fortune 500 they stand as I'm writing up this case study, was using coaching to change culture. And it was very simple. How big were the culture change project plans that you were involved in? Mine were thousands of lines long in some cases. This was very simple. The C-suite said, this is, in big terms, the behaviors we need in the future. We need decisions made at the lowest level possible, as an example. Now let's sit down and in our IT department, in our service delivery department, or whatever, what actions do we need to start and what actions do we need to stop? Let's create a checklist. Now we go into group coaching. How are we doing against that checklist? Are we still calling our direct reports at 6:30 a.m. 7 days a week? Are we still working 7 days a week? What's getting in the way? How do we get it out of the way? Well, collectively, we're not calling our direct reports 7 days a week, but I am. Well, now I have an individual coach to work with as well. Again, the human side of the organization, at the end of the day, is what's going to make the difference. AI is an enabler. AI will have more and more value add as we move forward.
Indeed.
But if we lose connection with the people, we've lost it.
That's it. And the leader's role is more important than ever. And as you mentioned, AI is that enabler. It's not. It's just like years ago. Oh, hey, cloud computing. Well, it's an enabler. As are ERPs. It's an enabler. And so interesting that you went to the start, stop, and continue. And one of the things that we've been really focused on as part of thinking about AI adoption is the whole start, stop, continue, and then automate. And in really thinking about from an AI adoption perspective, how can we automate? Because I'm sure you're seeing this too. The high percentages of employees that are overworked, under so much stress, and burnout. The burnout levels across North America are still absolutely ridiculous. And so how can we, not thinking about let's get rid of people, let's see how we can still take care of our customers, still take care of our priorities, and take care of our team, but really examining as a team, what do we do, and what can we leverage AI as that enabler for, in order to free up some time to actually get work done that's going to allow us as a team to really operate more effectively.
I'm all on board with that. I want to take it one step further. I'm a big fan and advocate of Greg McKeown and his essentialism. Burnout is a leadership problem. If, as a leader, you are giving me more work than is reasonable for me to do, I am setting the priorities, not you. Burnout is a leadership problem. I think AI is a great tool to say, what is the essential work of this role? What are the essential changes in this organization? And what do we take off the plate?
Yeah. And I think through COVID, uh, people's plates got so heavy. And I think there was within a lot of organizations and a lot of teams, um, with people not having to commute, suddenly it just became the norm for people to use that time that they would have been commuting to do additional work. So um, I just want to shift a little, and it's still tied, and talk about AI adoption, and just thinking about leaders and supporting and guiding their teams through AI adoption. We talked a little bit about this, the start, stop, continue, automate. Really look at what are those essential tasks. What do you what would you suggest for leaders for some steps or some best practices that they can take to guide their teams through, AI adoption, which to me really is part of a transformation.
Absolutely. Again, I'm going to call on one of the podcast episodes I did on the topic, and it was episode 100, the AI Human Skills Connection, with Nada Sanders, who is co-author of The Human Machine, AI, Human Virtues, and the Superintelligent Enterprise. And one of the things that she talked about was using our intelligence on when to use AI intelligence. And she gives the example of using AI to screen resumes. She says, totally wrong application. AI is big data. It's big data about the past. If you're hiring people to lead you into the future, given what we know about the unknown of the future, screening out the people who are the innovators, screening out the people who are the thought leaders, screening out the people who are the mavericks may well be absolutely the wrong way of going about hiring. So I think being intelligent about when and where and how, for what reasons we bring in AI, is essential to the success or failure of a business.
Yeah. And it really, one of the things that comes to my mind is um, we could end up with the cookie cutter, right? Where it's everybody who used the same program to create and update their resume with the same buzzwords based on the application. We're seeing this in profiles on LinkedIn now, not just in resume. And one of the things that comes to mind as well is we want we want those mavericks, we want those innovators, we want people who are going to think and grow on the job. And one of the big risks that I'm seeing is people relying on AI so much so they don't have to think about something. And we want people to think, we want them to use it. We want people to think about, when I'm creating a communication, this is the person that is the audience. This is the message I'm trying to get across, as opposed to, a one size fits all. It's getting people to continue to think and express their feelings and thoughts, and use, as you put it, use use the three parts of the brain.
There's a wonderful book called Wise Beyond Your Field by Nancy Napier. Nancy is I think may now be retired, but she was a business faculty member at the University of at Boise State University. And Nancy started a group that called themselves the Gang. It was Nancy as sort of the catalyst, the facilitator. It was the Boise State University football coach, the county sheriff, the founder of a software company, the founder, I believe, or artistic director of a Shakespearean company, of a dance company, and so forth. And the key message was, if all I'm doing is working to achieve the best practices in my industry, I'm no competition for my competitors who are doing the same thing. And that is exactly what you're saying here. The software companies started using position coaches that they learned from the football coach. Just as one example, we have to be wise beyond our fields. We have to break down those traditional ways of thinking and doing, and looking at the competition for the next best thing.
Yeah, and it's I think it starts with those people managers. I think it starts with starting to empower your people to think and really challenge them to think. And again, that ability to leverage AI as the enabler, but in ways that actually allow people to be more expressive, to improve ways of working, improve how people collaborate and work together, and those cultures, and build that connected, that connected workplace, getting closer to understanding what your customers and your colleagues and your peers need, and what you need as well. So what do you see, thinking about that whole connected workplace, what do you see as opportunities for using AI to foster more collaboration and getting people to tear down some of those silos, and even be more be more inclusive with with how they work with one another and with their customers?
So I'm going to go someplace that is politically incorrect here in the United States right now. I'll start with a book I read that I no longer remember the title of, that was looking at science analogies for leadership. And the one that I carried with me was the palm tree and the oak tree. And the science of the palm tree is it has a very simple cellular structure. It can grow very quickly because of that. The oak tree has a very complex cellular structure, very diverse cellular structure. It grows slowly. In times of turbulence, the palm tree will bend and even break. The oak tree will still stand strong. So bring diversity to the thinking and the application of AI. When I ask AI a business question, what is the best strategy for X? I can judge whether or not AI got it right. But if I bring in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 others to look at it from their perspectives, from their diverse understanding of the marketplace, of our business, of our offerings, and so forth and so on, I can fine-tune that strategy. We can fine-tune that strategy much more wisely, or we can say, this doesn't make any sense at all. Even though from my perspective, because I put the question in, if you will, it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it really makes you start to think about uh, uh, how how we work as teams, and how we how we move forward. And one of the things that we're seeing, with some companies that we've gone in to support after they've looked to launch AI across their organization, is um, that a lot of these organizations, it feels like for them that there's less human connection. There feels like people working more in silos. We're seeing where there's a lot less collaboration, and even people with different agendas. How how would you suggest going about and supporting these organizations that have already started on their AI journey? They've already got things in place, but it feels like they're losing their way a little bit, and it could be because of the an AI we trust, or just that they're not seeing this as an enabler. They're seeing it as a solution. So what do you think in those situations? And I know it's not a one size fits all for anything.
I'm going to make a comparison here. Um, Coming out of COVID, we heard a lot of leadership calls. We need people back in the workplace. That's how we orient people into the organization. That's how we build and sustain our culture. And I've done 3 podcasts now with a gentleman named Chris DeSantis on different podcasting platforms. Chris is the author of the book, Why I Find You Irritating. And it's about cross-generational conflict at work. And I asked Chris, how do you respond to leaders who say, I need everyone back in the office? And I'm paraphrasing him, but basically his answer was, talk to your younger workforce. They have established relationships with people around the world that will last a lifetime, and they will never meet in person. Ask them how to do it, then shut up and listen. I think the same answer applies here, Tim. There are people in every organization, I have to believe, that have wisdom about how to use AI more wisely than the organization already is, that have wisdom about where the organization is stepping off the edge in their application of AI. Ask the questions and listen.
Yeah. And I think that's that such an amazing such an amazing way to go, because we still are hearing that, hey, I need people back in in the office. And there's so much frustration when people go back, because they're just on their computer in Teams or Zoom calls all day anyways. And it was like, well, why did I do 3 hours of commute this day? And so often what it feels like is when leaders are frustrated with what they perceive as lack of engagement or lack of people working together, the answer likely coming from a place of fear is, hey, let's get everybody back in the office, even though we did promise them during COVID that they could live anywhere, and that we would never make it mandatory.
When COVID first hit, I had a lot of leaders say, how am I going to know that people are actually working? And I said, how did you know before? Because I'm sitting on my butt in front of my computer for 8, 9, 10 hours doesn't mean I'm working for 8, 9, 10 hours. If that was your measure, if butts and seats was your measure of productivity before, you were doing it wrong.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
same now. I did some work as that whole back to work thing started with a consultant who was really trying to drive organizations to, as he put it, make the workplace a purpose-driven destination. If I'm coming to work, it's back in the office. It's not because you have rent to pay or own the building. It's because there is a purpose to me being there with others. I have a dear friend who worked for a global technology company who was told she had to come back to work in the office. So she said, I drove an hour and a half every day, each way, to sit online in meetings with people from our offices around the globe, no differently than I would have done at home.
Yeah. Yeah. It it is it is so true. It's so true. And I want to, I know we don't have a crystal ball, but I'd love to get your thoughts around the future of AI when it comes to business transformation. And what do you see for, 2025, 2026 and beyond? What an AI enabled or AI driven organization could look like that's you know effective and thriving culture and all of those things that we talked about. So what do you see potentially for the next couple of years when it comes to companies thinking about AI transformation and trying to move it forward?
Am I allowed to say I don't know?
Of course you are. Of course you
I
are.
really don't, Tim. I think, and we're sort of isolating AI in this conversation, and we need to. But I also don't know what the next big disruptor is going to be. Are we going to have a bird flu pandemic similar to COVID? Is it going to be economic and political upheaval on a global basis? There is another big disruptor that will also shape business. So let's put that aside. I think we are going to see some companies, some organizations that are very wise in their development and application of AI. And we're going to see some that sink themselves. That I think is a reasonable prediction.
Yeah. And
At some point you can't keep making horse buggies when the automobiles keep rolling off the assembly line.
yeah, it's so true. And I think we're already seeing some of the organizations stinking themselves, and and a big part of that is a lot of what we've seen around the fundamentals of transformation, the importance of involving your people, the importance of engaging, the importance of understanding how it fits within your ways of working, the uh, the need to bring your people along a journey, the need to understand the sentiment of your people as they're going through this change, the need to make sure that people have the tools and they understand the why and the what before the how, and that uh, we're involving, we're engaging, we're enabling people to adopt, because we're seeing so many of the ones that aren't being successful. It's the same. Hey, this is an IT enabler. No, it's a business enabler, or leaders who saying, oh, you know what, this is a great change. People will just love it. Well, no, they're going to be fearful, they're going to be resistant, they're going to be all of those things that we know that hasn't changed. So I think that's I think that's so important. So any, from your perspective, I know we're almost out of time. One of the things that we've heard from our audience today is uh, one of our participants was asking if we could share the link to the podcast that we did together, your podcast. Is that something that we could provide out to everyone along with the recording in the coming days?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
It was, I was sharing hosting duties at that time with Teresa Moulton, who is editor-in-chief of Change Management Review. So it is still up on their website, and that podcast is out on Apple and Google and Stitcher and all the others as well. So I'll get that link and send it off to you.
Wonderful, thank you. And just a couple things, if we could. I'd love to get any closing thoughts, and also I know folks would love to know how to get in touch with you following this podcast as well. So please, any closing thoughts on how people can reach out and stay connected and get connected with you.
So a couple of thoughts. First, years ago when I was doing some change consulting work, was working with a company that will remain nameless. And the CEO said, this technology stuff, I want to be on the trailing edge. Don't be on the trailing edge of this one. But unless you are an expert in the field, don't be on the cutting edge either. Don't go chasing shiny objects thinking AI is going to solve your problems. Pay attention, learn, experiment, but don't bet the farm. So I am Brian, Brian, at transforminglives.coach. Transforminglives.coach is my website. And I would love to pick up this conversation or the conversation around how do you lead through this with anyone who's interested.
Thank you, Brian. And I believe Leanne has shared your contact information in the chat as well. And
great, thank you.
And I want to thank you for taking us through. The conversation went very quickly, and you've just got such a wealth of knowledge. I absolutely love diving in, and I know with some of these topics we could speak for a day or more and not run out of incredible insights. So I want to thank you for joining today. Thank you for your time, for sharing your words of wisdom and your insights, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Our next webinar is coming up on February the 12th. It's all about enhancing change management and org design, lessons from the field and the promise of AI. And I know Leanne's put that in the chat as well, and we'll make sure that we get the recording and the ways to connect, and also the information on the previous podcast we did off to everybody in the coming days. So thanks so much. Thanks, Brian, and really looking forward to continuing the conversation in so many ways in the near future.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.